the question is there a future of democracy in the digital age? Just a few months ago, Martin Schulz, the President of the European Parliament, has said we now need to fight against technological totalitarianism. And Barack Obama actually said this is also a time around the world when some of the fundamental ideals of liberal democracies are under attack. And when the notions of objectivity and of a free press and of facts and of evidence are trying to be undermined or in some cases ignored entirely. And Pope Francis said, what's up with you, humanistic Europe, you defender of human rights, democracy and freedom? What is going on in this world when the most powerful people in this world have to warn us of these developments? In fact, we've seen that democracies and the pressure in Turkey, in Poland, in Hungary, in France, and my feeling is it's actually getting under pressure in many other countries too. Where is this new totalitarianism coming from? Does it have to do anything with the age of big data? Within just 60 seconds, we're producing 700,000 Google queries, we're posting 500,000 Facebook posts. We go shopping, we move around, all of that creates data. Taken together, that creates a heap of big data. And this kind of data is being collected by governments and companies alike. The reason is to fight terrorism, they say. A more important reason is probably to make money, and of course, that's all right. And there is a third motivation, which is knowledge is power. And so the question is, can we now basically gain insights without science and theory? Would the data, if we just have enough data, reveal the truth and tell us what to do? Can we now know everything? Everything that's going on in any corner of the world in real time and build something like a crystal ball to see all this and see perhaps even the future using predictive analytics. And in fact, the military is working on such a prediction machine. These machines are using artificial intelligence. The expectation is that in about 20 years' time, there would be computer systems more intelligent than people. And after this singularity, people hope that basically those systems would solve all the world's problems for us, which we couldn't solve if, of course, we were too stupid or too selfish. And for sure, intelligent machines will be our tools, useful tools. And as they get more intelligent, they would be like teammates. In fact, there are already companies that have AI systems in their decision board. Eventually, they would be our coaches, correct our mistakes, tell us what to do, and the question is, would they be our bosses? In perspective, could we optimize the world with all that data and with all that artificial intelligence? Could we run it like a benevolent dictator? Or as a vice king? I'm not making this up. This is the kind of things that people are discussing, people with a strategic vision. And so we need to discuss about this too. What would be the implications? In fact, Facebook is said to have imperial ambitions. And it's not the only company. IBM was proposing Watson, this cognitive computer, for president, and Google wants to reprogram the state. That means we have arrived in a time where companies are trying to build an operating system for society. not an operating system for computers or for smartphones, an operating system for society that would steer the entirety of society, including every one of us. That means this is about programming people's behaviors. So the question is, could society be run like a giant machine? If one wanted to do that, one would need to know all the different pieces and how they behave and how they can be controlled. And in fact, this vision of cybernetic societies is around already for some decades, beginning with Chile in the 70s. Singapore is considering itself as a social laboratory, and it's not the only country that wants to become a smart nation. So after the automation of production and of cars, of driving, the automation of society seems to be next. And that's something I'm reflecting on in my new book. How is all this working? Well, basically, people use machine learning algorithms, deep learning, and apply it to big data about the world. Data about us, personal data, and data that has been collected mostly without our knowledge and agreement, but that does exist. Every single click you do on your computer is being recorded by cookies and super cookies and all this, and this data is being transferred to all sorts of companies and sold. We've just read about this, that the Web of Trust was selling data and apparently was not well enough anonymized. In fact, anonymization doesn't help if you have just enough data about somebody. It would identify somebody if you want. So basically, we are not protected from manipulation. Something that has been discovered by companies like Google. So by presenting us with personalized information, our attention can be steered, and with this also our emotions, our opinions, our decisions, and our behavior, to some extent at least. They make experiments with us to find out how to make us click certain links, how to buy certain products, and all those recommender platforms and social media have been turned into tools of manipulation. And these tools have become interesting also for governments, where people talk about nudging, in combination of the approaches of the whole economy with big data about us, big data that should actually not exist. We are talking about big nudging. The point is that with all that personalized information that knows us better than we know ourselves or our friends, we are easy to manipulate. We would not even notice that we have been manipulated because the decisions that are suggested to us feel like our own decisions. And the science behind this goes back to Skinner, who put animals into boxes and provided them with rewards and punishments like electrical shocks, and conditioned them to do certain kind of things. And now we are the experimental pets ourselves. The cages are the filter bubbles, the information world that has been created around us, personalized information that's steering our behavior. It's personalized prices and other feedback mechanisms to condition us. Now, if that would lead to a better society, I would say, okay, society has been changing over historical times, and then we should let it happen. But I'm not convinced, not at all, that this will lead to a better society. There is no evidence for this at all. In fact, things are getting worse and worse in many places of the world. And it's partly because if we are locked into a filter bubble, it becomes difficult to think out of the box and to be creative and innovative and come up with new solutions for the problems that we're faced with. I think our society has come to a crossroads. We need to make up our minds and take a decision about our future. Some people have suggested that democracy is an outdated technology. It has created wealth, health, and happiness for billions of people. But now they say, we want something else. What would that be? Feudalism 2.0? Fascism 2.0? Communism 2.0? All of that can be created. But we can also create democracy 2.0. I say it's time to say stop. Developments that we've seen are not pointing into the right direction. We may lose everything we built over hundreds of years, such as freedom and self-determination, human dignity, assumed innocence, fairness, justice, the right to pursue our own happiness, pluralism, democracy, participation, and many other things. It's time to speak up and say what we want, not what computers want and those who steer them. In the meantime, even those who have proposed nudging are getting concerned, such as Kaczynski. And in fact, this paradigm of the benevolent dictator is not promising a better world, not even a better economy. The data are not supporting this. We've looked into this. And we can see that even on a worldwide scale, the economy is not doing well. It's stagnating since a couple of years, more or less. And it's because we are trying to optimize the world, and optimization, it's eventually reaching the optimum of your goal function, but then that's it. We need to engage in a completely different paradigm, which is co-evolution. Co-evolution produces ever-growing growth. In fact, I'm not the only one demanding change. There has been this open letter on the digital economy saying that we haven't seen the great benefits for the economy. The lower and middle classes have lost income over the past decades. The digital revolution so far has benefited only very few companies and people. And we need to have a new paradigm, a more open economy, and information and innovation ecosystem. We have been promised paradise on Earth with all this digital revolution. But if you look at the top 10 list of the most livable cities in the world, surprisingly, those cities are not located in the leading IT nations. Neither USA, nor China, nor South Korea. So if they can't even produce a livable city, how won't they produce a better world? I want to see proof of principle. And in fact, recently in Wilton Park there has been a conference on smart cities with all the relevant cities in place and all the relevant institutions. And the conclusion was that this approach of a data-driven city, the technocratic city, hasn't worked out well. It hasn't worked for citizens, it hasn't worked for mayors of cities, it has not even worked for the companies who were trying to sell these approaches. The question is, how big is the problem? We've now arrived in a fact-free world, as we say. Information in the internet can be manipulated to an extent that it's almost impossible to decide, is it a fact, is it a lie, Is it explain what is it really? And it's partly because social bots are also spreading opinions to manipulate us. I think it's not just endangering the internet, it's endangering society altogether. Bots have been also involved in the Brexit decision. That Brexit decision has broken Europe apart into pieces and has created a breakdown of financial markets. $3 trillion were lost overnight. And guess who is going to pay the bill? We, the people. So, it's not only dangerous for ourselves, for individuals, it's dangerous for our societies, it's dangerous for our economy, and we have to do something about it. Actually, some people like Elon Musk have spoken up and have taken action. They're making us aware that we might be living in a matrix that's created by institutions such as CERN, an extraterritorial institution that's not bound to national law or to data protection law. How to free ourselves from this matrix? Now tech billionaires are spending quite a lot of money to find solutions for this problem. So it's a big problem. It's so big that 5 IT giants such as Google, Amazon, Facebook, IBM, and Microsoft have decided to attack this problem together. For the first time, they're working together on such a scale to produce ethical AI and break the filter bubble. Now, how did we get into this trap, this totalitarian trap? Our existential problems haven't been solved. People thought we need to collect all the data, we need a benevolent dictatorship of the world in order to solve our problems, such as climate change, such as the financial, economic, and spending crisis, such as conflict and war, mass migration, terrorism. But all of these problems go back to one single problem, which is lack of sustainability. We're overusing resources, and as we're doing this, resources are lacking elsewhere, and that produces conflict, and that produces war, and war produces mass migration, and terrorism, and all these kind of things. So if you really want to live in a better future, we need to solve this root problem. We finally need to fix it. And I don't see that this benevolent dictatorship approach that I've been talking about before has made any contribution to fixing this. In any case, we can say we're in the middle of a fundamental, a grand transformation of our society, and I think it's actually a triple transformation. We've seen similar transformations before, like the Industrial Revolution. At this time, it will be much faster, it will be much more fundamental, much more encompassing every single sector of our economy and society. Every single change. That's what I predict. Automation will take away about 50% of today's jobs. We'll have to reinvent half of our economy, in other words. But it's freeing up capacity for things we didn't have time and resources for. Our environment and social issues. And in fact, we have to make a fundamental transformation of our economy also in order to reduce global warming. We have to get towards a low carbon economy. In about 15 years' time, we have to rebuild our entire economy. And we need to fix the financial system too. All of this within about 15 years' time, and given the speed of the digital revolution, well, that's doable maybe, if we really do the right thing and we get it started now. you want to read a little bit about this, then this is the paper I recommend you to read. And if you want to make progress, we really need to understand complex systems much better than today. It's true that processing power is increasing exponentially. It's doubling every 18 months. But data volume is increasing even faster. It's doubling every 12 months. That means in 1 year we are producing as much data as in all the years before in human history. An incredible amount of data. The percentage of data we can process is going down over time. There's more and more dark data. We need to know what data to process and how. This requires science. But as we network the world, the complexity of the world is increasing even faster than exponentially. It's increasing factorially. This is overtaking even this large data volume. That means even though we have the best technology and more data than ever, we are losing control over the world. We want to control it in a top-down way. And that's why we need a new control paradigm, which is distributed control and self-organization. In fact, in a highly networked world, whatever you do doesn't just produce the intended effect, it produces side effects, it produces feedback effects, cascade effects, and society cannot be steered like a car because there are interaction effects, and those produce unexpected and in many cases undesirable outcomes such as traffic jams. But these traffic jams can be overcome. We can understand those traffic jams and we can get rid of them by changing the interactions of vehicles, by mechanism design. We use driver assistance systems that would change the driving style of about 40% of vehicles that can actually get rid of many traffic jams. And it doesn't require a traffic center to do that, it just requires a decentralized approach. Now, how does this work? Basically, we need real-time data and real-time feedback to change the interactions in such a way that they would produce the desirable outcome by self-organization, like magic. And this approach can be applied also on multiple levels. And this is how we can improve the world, but in a way that leaves us freedom for creativity and innovation. So we wouldn't say, you, and you have to do this, as a top-down control system would do, but we would say we need 3 people to do this. Who would be those people? So it's a completely different approach, a market approach, an approach with freedom. And it's actually working much better than what we have today. We've come up with a self-organized traffic light control where the traffic lights are controlled by the traffic flows rather than the other way around. And actually it reduces waiting times for all modes of transport quite dramatically. It's also good for the environment. And decentralized approaches are becoming more popular also in electrical power grids, keyword is smart grids, and in Industry 4.0. And it can be used also in society. And Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel Prize winner, has shown that self-government is efficient given proper design principles. And decentralized approaches that can actually help to create social order by self-organization are reputation systems, for example. Now, altogether, the decentralized approach to improve the world would build on digital assistance. We know it from route-guided systems. There, you are in control. You turn it on or off. You set the goal. Then the device makes you proposals. You can choose. Once you've chosen, the system is trying to help you to achieve your goals in an optimal way. This is how it should work. We can create digital assistants that would detect earthquakes and warn our friends. We can use them to map crises, to help us in crisis situations. We can produce decentralized systems that would keep up communication when our everyday communication system is breaking down, that would still allow us to execute payments and basically allow us to run a sharing economy in situations of emergency. And altogether, digital systems can help us in all sorts of situations of life to improve our situational awareness, to help us be more successful in our interaction with others. And one example is real-time translation. There are apps for this, so these digital assistants can overcome cultural barriers. And I think we'll see an age of social-inspired innovation. Now that has implications for governance. I think in a complex world, nobody can understand the full complexity of the world, no AI system too. And it means we need to learn to put our knowledge and our ideas together. And we need to learn to create collective intelligence. And this requires online deliberation platforms where arguments are collected on a virtual table and then sorted, maybe with the use of AI systems, into different perspectives on a complex problem. A complex problem always requires to be looked at from different perspectives. And once you have this, we need a round table to come up with innovative solutions in a deliberative way and integrate different perspectives to come up with solutions that work for many interest groups, not just for one. Now, the principle of collective intelligence is diversity wins, not the best. If you look at the Netflix prize, Wikipedia, then you can really see that if you combine the very best individual solution with the interior solutions, it produces an even much better solution. So it's really important to have different independent views and to integrate that. This is what improves solutions in a complex time. It requires the right kind of incentive systems. In fact, we can come up with much better decision mechanisms than yes-no democracies or even markets. And we need to reward minorities to find new perspectives, new aspects that matter. And we need to engage in value pluralism that requires systems that are implementing values by design. But only in this way we can create a society and economy that works for many and that allows basically that enables people to come up with better solutions and empowering people to be more creative and more innovative, take better decisions and collaborate more successfully. That will create better products and better companies and smarter cities and a better future. So this is what digital democracy is about. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this introduction. It is time for one quick question.
It's difficult to ask only one quick question because for half an hour every sentence was very interesting, challenging, going from one topic to the other. So maybe the most striking things in your presentation is the theme that the danger of digital era are the cause of problems in the society. And you kind of indulge yourself at some point to say, well, because of this, you first describe this digital era, and then you show images of wars, terrorism, migration, and you say that's the consequences. I totally disagree with that.
No, I didn't say.
So,
I didn't say it's a consequence of the digital revolution. I said it's a consequence of lack of sustainability, and the digital revolution has been driven forward in order to fix those problems, but apparently they haven't been fixed because I don't think we're using the right digital paradigm. You know, digital technologies can be used in many different ways.
Of lack of sustainability. These kind of problems have always existed. So what does it mean that lack of sustainability is the cause of that? I mean, I don't understand that one.
Now the argument is if resources are getting short, and that's what scientists and also industrials expect for the future, if there wouldn't be enough resources for everyone. We would see a collapse of our economy and a population collapse. That's what models predict. And I would say, in such a situation, we need a system that decides who gets how much of what resource. And that would be this top-down dictatorship that tells everyone, you know, you had enough meat this week, you know, there are not enough immunization shots for everyone, you know, who'll get it, who'll get medicine, and all these kind of things. You know, that's the kind of scenarios that the totalitarian approach has been created for situations of emergency. And I think what we need to engage for is that these emergencies will never occur. And I think even as resources are limited, there are actually approaches to avoid those emergency situations if we just build a circular economy and a sharing economy. And that can now be done actually by combining the Internet of Things and blockchain technology and create participatory systems like a huge sharing economy. You know, this is what we need to do to solve our sustainability problems. And then we won't run into the crisis. So I think we have engaged into the wrong digital paradigm, and we need to engage into a different one in order to avert all those crises and disasters. And that would be a system that engages in freedom, creativity, innovation, participation, co-creation, co-regulation, collective intelligence, self-organization, self-regulation. Now, that is what we need.